Hi, welcome to this episode of Better Life Today. Life has more meaning when it has purpose. Stay tuned as we talk about those who have found purpose in life. Hi, and welcome to this episode of Better Life Today. Today we're going to continue our discussion from our last episode on finding our purpose in life. And in the studio there's a lot of you here today. We have, of course, you're all familiar with Juliet. Oh man, I'm going to have to... Palencios. And we have two guests here who are kindred spirits because you're attention deficit. One of us is dyslexic. I don't know, raise your hand if you're colorblind too.
No, so, I'm not colorblind.
Hyperactive count?
I think so. I think we all deserve a blue placard, don't we? Okay. And so we have Laleen Fifield. And then we have J.C. Pratt. And welcome to Better Life and to our program today. I'm so excited as we were getting here to talking. I think I could talk to you two all day long.
Well, that would be fine. I'll bet we could fill a whole day.
But we are here to talk about something very important, and that is to find purpose in life. And you went through a process, and maybe Juliet, maybe you could give us a little background on where they came from and how they got to where they're at.
Yeah, so last episode we talked about Blue Zones Project and how there are places around the world where people are living the longest, healthiest lives. One of the things that they're doing or that they have in those cultures is a strong sense of purpose. So Blue Zones Project tries to foster that in the communities that we work within by providing purpose workshops, which is just a really initial experience for people to kind of start that purpose journey, to really start identifying what their gifts are, and then later work on the other parts of the equation, that the passion and the values, to eventually come up with a purpose statement and see how that applies in their lives. And following the purpose workshops, people have an opportunity to join a purpose moai, and I'll let you all share about that, but a moai is a concept from Okinawa where people get into these small groups, and with Blue Zones Project, they practice a healthy behavior together in these small groups over the course of the next 10 weeks following that purpose workshop.
Well, I think small groups are extremely important.
They are.
And so I guess the first question I want to ask and throw out there is, what is there that was going on in your lives that brought you to the point where you were seeking purpose, or brought you to the seminar, or what was the catalyst that said, I need that?
Got it. What happened for me actually happened in the workshop. I can't really say it brought me to it because I thought things were just fine. But what happened for me in the workshop was I moved from being very goal-oriented in my expression of my purpose to realizing I'm 76 years old and I can't continue to always be out there, always the hyperactivity, I never know when I run out of steam. And so I plan to live to 90 or 95, maybe 100. And so I need to do something different. So what happened was, for me, I took all of the passion, I took those gifts, and I started to realize that they'd taken me on a journey I hadn't realized that I was on, and that now I was moving into my elder years with a lot to share, and I didn't need to go out in the community and be the doer. Mm-hmm. That I could give back in lots of other ways.
And feel fulfilled.
Absolutely.
Okay, so somebody drug you kicking and screaming to the seminar?
Not at all. I heard about it. I thought, this sounds really interesting, which I think is a way that a lot of people find themselves in places that they need to be, don't know it. And I saw, 75, 80 people in a room. And I thought, what is this? And then, they explained what it was. And then they said, self-select, just go to a table and, we'll figure out who's going to be in group with whom. And somehow we ended up at this table with about 8, 9 people, and then slowly a few of them left. And those that were left covered an age span that was wonderful. I mean, it was JC and myself, and we're the elders. And there were a couple people who were 15 years younger than us, and then 10 years down from that. And that part made it wonderful, but it was all self-selection. We kind of looked at each other and, oh, well, that's not entirely true. Time of the day probably influenced some people. Could they do it before dinner and go home at 7 o'clock starving, or
Yeah.
with self-selection.
So on night one, they had you select groups.
Yeah, that was the point of that meeting, was to send us out in groups. And for myself, how I got involved in the Blue Zone, I decided I'd be
An advertisement.
an
You're looking good
advertisement,
over there,
so
JP.
that you can always remember what this is all about. This is what this is about. Anyway, I'm 82, so that means for a couple of years I have realized that I am on my last decade. And it occurred to me that this is my chance to actually be who I think I am. And let everything else, everything that I'm doing, because other people need it or expect it, let that slide, unless it's who I am. And so I was hoping this workbook and this group would focus me down into identifying what is the thing I want to be sure I have done before the end.
Well, that kind of goes back to the program that we had just before this, which was that folks in your age bracket had been interviewed and asked, what would you do different? Let me ask you that.
Well, I do a fewer number of things. And I have discerned through this process that I'm most interested in authenticity. I'm a teacher. The thing that pleases me the most, the passion, as they talk about, the thing you're always happy to talk about, is seeing the look of, oh, I get it, on somebody else's face. That to me is the greatest turn on. So I want to be sure that everything I choose to spend my time on for these years has that possibility, that somebody will go, oh, that really makes sense to me, or, oh, I never thought of it that way. So that's what I'm after. And so I had to deal with procrastination and not doing what is on the list to do. I mean, all sorts of.
So it wasn't all smooth sailing as you went through the process.
No. There's a lot of stuff I have to quit not doing in order to actually do what is my passion, which turns me on. And my kids are in their 50s. They're on their own lives. I'm in a new life for this time, and I'm really excited about it. And this gave me, and our particular group gave me the chance to be excited about it, because the thing that happened in the long run was that everyone who thought they knew their purpose was refined their concept of what that purpose was. And the one person who really admitted to having no idea what her purpose was, I just could watch those, whoa, oh, really, yes, coming from her. I was just sitting over there having such a ball as she learned what she needed to learn. And so it was just an exciting thing.
What, during the seminar, at what moment do you have a story that was that aha moment where you go, oh, this really is something I need to be in?
I did, and I actually wrote it down. JC and I had designed for our church a 16-week group on death and dying. I do the adult education sequence at our church. And I went through this whole experience, which really pooled my own experience from a lifetime, and my learning as a teacher and a psychotherapist and what I had done in my life. And I realized as I was doing it as much for me as I was for anyone else. What matters in my life? Who am I as a senior? What fed me? What from my childhood, my young adulthood, how did I make my decisions? And how am I going to do my dying? How am I going to live to the end of my life? No. And so those were some of the fueling questions that got me into creating this workshop with JC and the help of a few others. And right in the middle of our Moai group, it came to me doing those steps that this really is about what I had just done over the past year in working on that workshop, that it's about me transitioning from being a community activist, from being out there on the fighting front lines, from organizing, creating in the ways that I had as an activist, to using those other skills as a teacher and a therapist and going inward with myself. And that's when it came to me that, the rest of my life is not about being that person on the front line. It's about taking all of a lifetime of learning and just being available.
Being available.
Being available, talking, helping others.
See, there's the common thread I've seen in both of your stories, is that when we find, to me, for my purpose, when I found my real purpose in life, I recognized it was others-centered. It wasn't about me.
My life has always been other-centered, but from a personal place. I learned very young that that which is most personal is the most important.
What was your aha moment?
I think it was on the page where we have listing the values, and I realized that I didn't have 15 numbers. I only had 1s and 15s. and I realized then that what I put down as my values wasn't teaching, but it was, well, I could look, but being authentic. And so then I realized that that was the basis of my teaching also. I worked with dyslexic people, kids, in a school for kids that can't make it in school. And we taught them to read. We taught them to get around their dyslexia and this and that. And so it was, I'm teaching it for you. That's a gift. My gift is for you to become strong. And since I don't teach anymore and I'm realizing it's for me to become strong now, so that I can depend on myself to really be the turned on person that I'm trying to help others be. So it seemed like this booklet was simplistic because it was so clean and in steps and asking me for definitions of things, and I was going, frustrated with it because I thought I already had it organized and I couldn't fit it into your slots.
Sure.
So then I got over myself. It was because...
There's the aha moment, getting over ourselves.
Right, you're just getting over yourself and saying...
Well, we're way past time, but we'll be back right after this. Hi, and welcome back to this episode of Better Life Today. We're talking about these moais. Is that the right word, Juliet?
Yes.
Moai. I think that's the first time I've said the word.
Moai.
Define a moai. It sounds like some kind of haircut that goes through this. There's the mohawk and there's the moai.
Right. It's like the new age version. So a moai is an Okinawan term, Okinawan concept. In Okinawa, what they would do is they would put their kids into these small groups and they would cultivate those same friendships into lifelong bonds. And that was really intentional to create ongoing strong social networks for their communities. And so with Blue Zones Project, we've adopted that concept in the way that it manifests in the demonstration communities. is we facilitate the creation of these small groups, and they commit to meeting together at least once a week for 10 weeks, and they practice a healthy behavior, one of 3. So there are potluck moais, where they kind of experiment with plant slant recipes. There are walking moais, which is kind of pretty self-explanatory. They walk together once or twice a week for 10 weeks. And then there are purpose moais, and that's what we're talking about today. That's what these 2 ladies elected to participate in after taking a purpose workshop.
Okay, and so the first night you go to the workshop, they put you into this moai. This moai exists today, the
Yeah.
same
Yes.
group of people.
It does,
We're
because
meeting next Friday.
because our final decision was we would meet on Friday night, on the last Friday of every month.
Okay,
And so we will
and
catch
yours
each-
is a purpose one.
Yeah.
There's no food involved. This makes me very sad.
No, well, you have to have food.
Oh, okay.
You know, I mean,
Sometimes they
women.
choose to have snacks and
you
that
know,
kind of thing.
and you know, there'll be tomatoes for the next 2 because we got tomatoes
Zucchini.
coming out of here,
I
so
know,
there
it's
will
that
be
time of year.
tomatoes.
But this is really a great sign that their moai decided to continue meeting after 10 weeks. We only ask for 10 weeks, but we do hope that it ends up being a long-term intervention where they bond as a group and decide to continue meeting. That's really sort of the other added benefit besides practicing this healthy behavior, which in this case was exploring
Well,
purpose.
but I have another moai in my life.
Oh,
I have a group that I have
you-
met with
yes.
at 4 o'clock on Thursdays for 20 years.
Yeah,
so
that's right. That's
we
very
call them
unique.
support groups, but moai is much more
Kind of a
fun.
cool new term.
Yeah, right. and I've had others. So the idea of having a group where you know you can come in and go,
Yes.
and they'll say, and they won't try to fix it. They'll
Right.
just, you know, so,
And
Well, there's
I've had
something to be
groups,
said about someplace that's safe.
yes.
Yes.
I've had
absolutely.
groups all my life, and I wanted to be in a group that I wasn't leading as a therapist, or I hadn't created as a teacher or professor. I just wanted to be, and the beauty of a moai is the leadership is shared, so that each week someone else just does the facilitating. And it was such a luxury not to
Yeah.
have to do those other things. It was just about me and my experience, and I was being facilitated. It was wonderful.
Participant, Yeah.
So how do the others in the moai, you come and you
Yeah.
you
They
dump. You're having a bad day, whatever. I am whatever. And how is it that the others offer support?
Well, actually, because we're talking about moais, it's a little different in a support group in that we had this booklet.
Okay.
And we were focused for each meeting on something.
Right.
So even though we would do a little check-in of how things were going, mainly we were there to learn these things. And there was one of our number who needed to learn them because she didn't know them. We all knew them in some other guise. And so we were careful to make sure she got what she needed.
Actually, though, each person in their own way at their own time dumped.
Yeah.
People made some major changes, and those changes came out of their dump. One person, for example, she needed out of her job. And by the end of the moai, she had completely decided to retire. She had been able to identify what it was about her job she didn't like and why she wanted out of it. Someone else realized that she was working in a field that she loved but not doing the work. She was not doing the hands-on interpersonal work. She was supervising.
Well, I would assume you'd get a fair amount of that even going through this because for myself, I have to process out loud. So as
Oh,
I
yeah.
come to terms with things, I need to get it out loud, and it's not good enough to get it out loud in a room by myself.
Well, the beauty of the moai is that our search and our experience brought each of us in our own way to that pivotal point where by the end of the 10 weeks, something major had happened in each person's life. That's amazing.
And we all knew that. And as each person let that happen within the group, the others gained the courage to do it too. and then they would feel the
Yeah.
as things left their
And
pressure.
we all practiced the values that we had identified in the very beginning that were most important to us, like love and compassion were two of mine, you know, and just being able to be authentic when you're listening to someone else's experience or talking about your own is extremely important. Telling the truth.
Yeah, that's a hard one
That
for a
can
lot
be
of
real
folks.
hard.
Yeah, because one of them, they made da-da-da-da-da-da, some statement about her life, and from across the room said, "I don't see you that way." And she said, "Huh?" And she then went on in how she'd say, "Oh, I never realized it could look like that." So that's big.
What she got was that her life had been ruled by what other people thought of her. I mean, that could take years in therapy.
Yeah.
She did it in 10 weeks in a Moai.
Need another house? You know, sign her up.
I'm retired.
That's
So-
But that's not even who I was talking about. But see, we all did that.
Right.
Same
Okay.
thing in whatever way we
So you're
needed to.
82.
Yes.
You're 76.
Yes.
You've done your careers. Yeah, and what's interesting to me is you deal with people with dyslexia. You're a therapist, so your careers maybe aren't the same, but there's a common thread there, right? Which is interesting. You ended up at the same table. But the question is, so you've had your life. You know, you have more life ahead of you too, but you've lived the bulk of it on this side. And after you come out of here, was there a shift in your understanding of your purpose? Was there a new purpose? What solidified for you that made the difference? Is that
It's a defined purpose.
a defined purpose? That's a better way for me to say that.
Okay. So what mine boiled down to was, under right use of power, I purposefully choose to do things that add happiness to my life and others. That's my purpose.
Okay.
Now that's an amazing reason for doing other things, and then I have a little thing written there. So why do I always choose to do other things? You know, the point is, so quit doing those other things and concentrate on being authentic and helping other people be authentic.
Okay. So, and that was a line in there. What did you write in yours?
I don't remember, and I looked to see if I had brought my book
Well,
in.
that's just a cop out.
But my purpose was to live my life with the values that are most important to me, doing things that bring me joy,
Yeah,
rather than things I might have to do because of whatever.
yeah.
That's fair. Juliet, why don't you tell us how other folks that might like to attend the seminar can do that?
Yeah, so if you happen to live in or near a Blue Zones Project demonstration community, there are 42 out there in the country. We have 4 here in the state of Oregon. We have Blue Zones Project The Dalles, we have Blue Zones Project Umpqua, where we are from. We have Blue Zones Project Grants Pass, right here where this program is filmed, and we have Blue Zones Project Klamath Falls. So all of these places, part of our work in the community is to help people find and explore and learn to apply their own purpose, their ikigai, their plan de vida, what we talked about in those blue zones, as people refer to them. And we do that with purpose workshops. These are free 2-hour facilitated sessions where people just begin to kind of scratch the surface. They just begin to start to explore what their gifts are. The first part of that equation, gifts plus passion plus values equals purpose. And then they have the option. We encourage everyone that attends a purpose workshop to continue that exploration because it's a journey. It really takes time. Not many people can easily articulate their purpose like you did in the last episode. But some people, and we do encourage this, some people join a Moai, and a Moai over the next 10 weeks invites them to continue to do that exploration together in a small group. So the best way to find out about that is to connect with your local Blue Zones Project demonstration community. Usually finding the community on social media is the best way to do that. So for us, Blue Zones Project Umpqua on Facebook or on Instagram, or for Oregon, Blue Zones or I'm sorry, Oregon.bluezonesproject.com is a way to kind of connect with the statewide initiative.
Okay. Well, thanks for all of you for coming and participating and sharing your experiences. You just have been a breath of fresh air. We thank you as well for watching this program, and we'll see you next time here on Better Life Today.